Everybody have a good morning? Everybody good? Happy? Fantastic. Very much so. Yeah. Especially for a game like this, it's always great to be here. You know, it feels like there's a little bit of history in the making. I've said it this way: they signed Kalen to a contract. He won over the team. He's certainly the boss inside the building. But to college football at large, he becomes the head coach at Alabama tomorrow night. And I think it's a kind of grand stage for these two powerhouses, kind of a great thing to be a part of for us.
What are some things that you think will be challenges for both teams to be able to win tomorrow? What will you be looking for in terms of offense and defensive plays?
Explosive plays for both. Neither of these defenses have given up any. I think how people define explosive plays differently, but basically, I think Georgia's given up 2 all year, and Alabama's given up 3. Georgia hasn't allowed a touchdown yet, and Alabama's routinely scored touchdowns from 50 yards out. So I think whoever can get those chunk plays to help their drives along, and maybe whoever can stop them or limit them, that's a really big deal in this game, in my judgment. Georgia is still looking for players to provide those. They have guys who are capable, for sure. I mean, it's not like just because Lab McConkey and Brock Bowers are gone that they suddenly, just have a bunch of intramural guys running around out there. They've got dudes. It's just a matter of they haven't necessarily made as many. They haven't made as many big plays as you might expect. I think that's part of it, not just because it's DeBoer, because the thing that people shouldn't underestimate, this is not Kalen DeBoer's first rodeo. It might be at Alabama. A guy coached in the national championship game last year. He's 12-2 against ranked opponents. He knows what he's doing, and he knows how to handle a big game. I was at the Washington-Oregon game last year. I know people in the South might not believe it. That was a big-time field. That was an electric environment with a lot of pressure, and he knows how to navigate those games, so he'll be fine. That said, there is a transition, any way you want to look at it. And I think because of the transition, it does put a little more pressure on Georgia. They are the established power. Their systems are in place. There's no transition. So I think from that standpoint, there's probably a little more pressure on Georgia to win the game when you combine that with their schedule. Alabama's got a tough schedule as well, but Georgia still has to go to Texas. They still got to go to Ole Miss. They've got Tennessee coming in. So it would probably put a little more pressure on Georgia, especially given the fact that they don't have the margin for error as they haven't changed coaches and changed schemes and all of those things that Alabama's doing.
What's it like for you preparing for this game with Coach Saban now on your team? How has he added or changed to your preparation?
We always try to prepare thoroughly, but what Nick has brought is a dynamic that this show or any show has never really had. And, his number one, he's a gifted communicator no matter what. Obviously, he is a football expert and legend. So there's an XO component and a recency to being at the height of his career, coming to TV that I don't think anybody's ever had in TV before. And him being able to do that and the way he can communicate things and his willingness to be candid and his ability to break things down, I don't say he makes it simple, he makes it understandable, which is really the mark of a great communicator. So he's been absolutely terrific. He's funny. He brings ideas in the meetings. He busts people's chops. He takes it when you give it to him back. He's been tremendous. Just an amazing teammate.
What's the biggest thing that you've learned?
What's
the biggest thing you've learned from Nick in over the course of his time there? Whether it's X's and O's, whether it's about college football.
Well, I think we were just talking about it doing the film room. You have a tendency, if you're not a coach, you watch certain things. Maybe you think you're smart. Maybe you watch something other than just the ball. But he shows you different things to watch. It's just matter of fact and just the way he views the game. But now you'll catch yourself saying, oh, okay, he talked about, watching this guy being accountable for the quarterback, or this guy immediately when he steps out of the box. Now the quarterback knows it's a quarterback draw now. Things like that you learn. And I think just also being appreciative for the passion he has for the sport at large. We're gonna have a discussion tomorrow about the situation at UNLV with Matthew Sluka, the quarterback who left. And based on what we've all talked about earlier, it's going to take a broader context than just a guy leaving his team. It's like, what are we going to do in college football to kind of take care of this? And he's been so involved in all of that. I mean, you learn a lot about his passion and care for the game at large, not just the team that he wants to coach.
What about for this game in particular? Is there something that he showed you, or something that you're looking at in this game that maybe Nick Saban kind of said, hey, make sure to watch this in terms of a matchup to watch for this game?
I mean, not yet, but I mean, the biggest thing is what we just did is talking about how will Georgia handle the threat of Jalen Milroe running. Not just when he runs, you've got to handle that for sure, but then there are other times you put stress on Georgia's defense just because he can. And he's also a very good passer. So those are the types of things I think that he's been focusing on.
How'd you feel to be back in Tuscaloosa? In some ways, it's like coming home.
Oh, sure. I mean, University of Alabama has been really important to me and good to me over the years. And, when you come back, there are a lot of memories. You see a lot of friends. People are kind enough to want to come down to the show. And, I'm excited to see some people that you don't get to see regularly. So it's always fun to come back to a place that feels like home.
Is this one of the more unique marquee matchups that you've covered, and just in terms of lack of maybe household names? I know there's a few of them, but it seems like there's less so than maybe in a normal top 5 matchup.
I'm not sure I agree with your premise. I mean, I think college football fans, Milroe and Beck were already big deals. I think, Malachi Starks from Georgia is a guy who is a highly recruited guy, who's pretty well known. So I think this is a great matchup because it's a rivalry that's sort of born of excellence. Because growing up, in the state and following Alabama football, Auburn and Georgia were rivals. They played every year. Alabama and Georgia didn't play every year. But since the time Nick arrived, and really a few times before that, stakes are always pretty high, when they play these things. So I don't know. I think it's big because of the excellence that the two have exhibited over the last several years. But I don't know that I look at it as some mystery in terms of people knowing the players or anything. If I didn't misunderstand your question.
Have you gotten a chance to talk to Coach Saban about who he might be picking tomorrow?
I don't ever ask him that because, he should just pick who he thinks is going to win. And I know that sounds cliche to try, but I really think that's important for all of our analysts. If he were just going for, either the response to the crowd, he's in Alabama. If he's going for the big overall, I'm going to call this like I see it, even if he doesn't think that, picking Georgia would be the way to go. So you can't win on that either way. So you might as well just say what you think. And I'm confident he'll do that. He hasn't hesitated to do that in any facet of his life for the entire time I've known him. So I imagine he'll just say who he thinks is going to win. Let the chips fall where they may.
Can you give us any hint of who the guest picker will be?
Julie? Not yet? Have we announced it yet?
Not yet. We announced in 2 hours.
2 hours. In 2 hours, someone will tell you.
You talked about you've seen Kalen in these big games before. You probably knew better than most people in the South before this kind of just the whole college football landscape. What was your initial reaction to Alabama hiring him and kind of how he would step in and play Saban?
The number one, first of all, you got to be a great coach to be willing, and you have to be confident in your ability to step in and follow in his footsteps because he's the greatest coach who ever lived. All due respect to Coach Bryant, who's awesome for sure. To me, the greatest college coach in the history of sports medicine. And you've got to be very confident to be willing to take that on. I didn't know Kalen well. Just didn't know him at all prior to our trip to Washington last year. And obviously I had no inkling that he would someday be the Alabama coach. But what I did say to people is I've got to work to develop a relationship with this guy because as long as he's at Washington, they are going to be good. Because he's won everywhere he's been. Tremendous coach, gets the most out of his players, creative. But I mean, just the way he's carried himself and having been respectful to what has been accomplished here by Nick, by Bear Bryant, by Coach Stalling, everybody here, yet still being confident enough to listen to the players and things they want to keep that fit within his vision, and then implementing the things that he thinks are important because of his success. So I think it was the perfect choice. Not that there aren't other elite coaches out there, but I think his demeanor and his confidence and his track record made him an absolutely perfect hire that Greg Byrne pulled off.